wonderful. How good is he?
Oh, that is absolutely astonishing. Goodness gracious me.
Well, it's amazing the goal is still standing.
It's a fairy tale.
Hey, and welcome to the World Cup preview show. We're only days away from a brisk, fast World Cup. That's in the winter, but nonetheless, it should be a good time with a good matchup with me. Really betting on his first inaugural World Cup. His Dynamite David. We just got him into soccer betting a couple years ago, and he's sort of been sucked into the hold, and now we got a World Cup for him to bet on. Now, granted, it is a World Cup held in one tiny city in the middle of winter, so it's a little unusual, but it should be fun nonetheless. Are you excited to get into the World Cup here?
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. The more research I did into it, the more excited I got. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see how the group play goes out, but I think I managed to put together some plays to make it fun and interesting for sure.
Well, we're going to combine this into a couple shows here. We're going to do like our future shows that we do for our football show previews, where we go over the groups and give you our future bets that we think are pretty good. Then we'll... Once we wrap that up, we'll give you a handful of... I got a couple player bets, a couple matchup bets that we'll do at the end of that, and then we'll go into our, tourney bracket show that nonetheless got a little wasted last year, but anyway, we'll go into our bracket show, pick our brackets, for the initial World Cup, and then maybe after group stage is on, we might do another one where we do another set of brackets after we got all the teams that are in the knockout stages. But that's how we'll break it down. So you ready to get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so let's kick off with Group A. And Group A will have our host Qatar. Here, of course, Ecuador, Senegal, and the Netherlands. So, a sort of mixed group here. Three teams who are, I'd say, pretty used to playing in World Cup play. Senegal has become one of the African nations that are in there commonly. Ecuador's pretty much in the 2000s, been in every World Cup but all won. And Netherlands, even though they did miss the last World Cup, has always been a contender and is always one of those teams on the list of best soccer nations that have never won a World Cup. And then you got Qatar, who basically have come out of nowhere to become a soccer team. And they got in because they have the World Cup. But they do. I will say, I think this team is better than the South African team when the South African World Cup was there. So they do have a handful of players. Money can get you that, certainly. So let's, your initial thoughts on Group A here. Is this just Netherlands to go and everybody's fighting for second? I know there's, I think both you and I have discussed it a little bit off air that I think we both really like Senegal, but with the Mane injury, it becomes a little hard to sort of break this group down outside of the Netherlands because really, scoring-wise, they're so dependent offensively on him. So is this just Netherlands group to go, or can Senegal make a little bit of noise here?
Well, I definitely like Netherlands here to win the group. I think Senegal would have been there right with them. Mane had been healthy game one. Looks like he's going to at least miss one game, maybe two. Yeah. That could get really interesting if he misses two games. But I think, with that first matchup being Senegal versus the Netherlands, they can kind of maybe hold it to a draw in that one. I don't know if that'll happen, but I think that was okay. I think that was one going in. You expected probably a loss in that one anyway. So him missing that game might not hurt so bad as long as they can take care of business against Qatar and Ecuador. But I think it could get a little interesting between Ecuador and Senegal for who's going to get that second spot in. But I like Netherlands clearing and running away there.
Yeah, I was really big on Senegal. I love their style of play. I think it also breeds into cup and knockout play, things like this, where, most of these teams are not actual teams. They're players from all over who gather in and have even here. It's not even the 3-week lead up that you usually get in the off season. It's basically a week lead up that these teams got together to practice.
Yep.
And not a lot of them play on the same team. So I think somebody like Senegal, who, I mean, is rough, tugged, will sit back there and make the game as ugly as possible and be perfectly fine with it. And if you give them an opportunity, counterattack with their elite force in Mane up there to get a goal. So they can bully people around and will stink up the place and be like, that's fine. We're getting 1 point, we're getting 3 points. We aren't going to give up goals. So I think that came into the group. But once the Mane, it just becomes more and more less offensive that they get. And it just becomes a little bit scary that, you know, basically every game is going to be 0-0-0-0, and you slip up an inch and somebody can get in there. And that's where somebody like Ecuador, who, you know, is a team that has played together a lot, really in South America, other than the Brazil and Argentina. They were the easily qualified in there. They went around, they've beaten a lot of people. They've sort of come together. They also will play defensive, but they're a little bit more aggressive defensively and will attack. So I think they have a little bit of a slight edge here, depending on how banged up Mane is, which, you know, it's impossible to say. They've already said he's going to miss the first game, you know, and what do you get when he gets out there? If it's a half Mane, that's not going to be any good, other than maybe the defense shifts a little bit. And then you got the host, Qatar, where basically there's always been a thing where the host nation can kind of wiggle their way and sneak through here. They got the opening game, which is pretty much a necessity to at least get a point out of. They cannot lose to Ecuador and kick it off. So, you know, this Qatar team has played a couple tournaments. They were in the Gold Cup, you know, and made it to the semifinals in that. I mean, not legit deep tests, but they've had some tests, and I think they can hang with Senegal and Ecuador. I don't know if they can hang with Netherlands. So I'm interested to see how this all plays out. Now, Netherlands, really interesting team to me, where it's really a sort of different than what Netherlands has ever been. They are absolutely loaded roster defensive-wise with defenders. I mean, it's 3 or 4 of the best defenders in the world loaded up on their team, and this Netherlands team has always sort of been a offensive-minded front foot team. Can they sort of pull back, you know, and be like, we're going to try to win 1-0. We're going to try to win 2-0. Or does it get to the point where it's, we want to open up? Because they don't have that front line. You know, usually they are loaded with a bunch of guys along the front lines who can all score, and this is a reverse. So let's take Netherlands. How far do you think they can go with this roster? It's a very good roster. It's not deep. I think that's the scary thing, especially up front. It's like Memphis, and then it's sort of hoping for goals. The midfield is really good. The defense is really good. So how far can this Netherlands team go? Yeah,
like you said, they're really defensive-minded. They're going to have to I think they're going to kind of come out with this, you know, when opportunity strikes kind of offense.
Yes.
But, you know, as this is my first World Cup gambling, I started going through some numbers, and one thing that really popped out, I like this Netherlands team, but analytically, across the board, this team leads in almost every metric. So for those numbers guys out there, they're going to like this Netherlands team. That's kind of why I liked them. I've got them going pretty far on my bracket, but I think they're going to easily take care of business in this group. I think that helps them down the line because they're not going to be stressed as far as qualifying for the knockout rounds. And I think they're going to be able to look at what position, you know, we talked a little bit about how sometimes after the first couple games, they may look at, hey, you know, maybe we can drop a game or draw, and maybe the second spot would be a better pull. But I think they're going to be feeling pretty good coming out of group play.
Well, I think you mentioned it. I think that also benefits them. I think now you don't want to say anything's an easy group, but, you know, of other groups that we've looked at, I think this is a pretty easy group for Netherlands to navigate here. And that might help them, especially, you know, in years past. Sometimes they've had trouble coming out of the group because they played too open and they need that last day to get goals. I don't think they'll need that. They can sort of play their way. So I really like Netherlands here, you know, to the point where when the bracket first broke, I went and looked at the future odds because I wanted to grab a couple early before betting started getting in on them. But they had already had them down lower than I thought was the value. So I passed a little bit on that. But I am curious here. your bets overall in Group A. What are you looking at here in Group A that you think future-wise can win you a little bit of money?
I got a little bit here. One, I thought it was worth a little bit of value and a shot. I've got Netherlands to win the cup at plus 1,400, and then I've got a straight pick for how the group's going to finish with Netherlands in the first spot, Senegal in that second spot at plus 185. I thought I think those are going to be the two that advance, and I think Netherlands are clearing away the front runner. So rather than just taking the Senegal to advance, I'm taking that straight forecast and getting a little bit more value there.
Well, I think you get pretty good. I think that value has gone up if you had taken it, a week and a half ago before Mane got hurt. I think that would have been, but since that evens it out. How I go about like futures group betting, I usually pick one or two teams that I really, really like, and then I make my bets on those one or two teams, and I go from there. So I picked Senegal here, despite the Mane thing, and we could be done. The first day Mane's out there, Netherlands scores 3 goals, we're in trouble with goal differential, and we're sitting behind the 8 ball there. But so I picked Senegal for a couple things here. I got Senegal in the semis at plus 13-1, Senegal to make it to the quarters at plus 340. I got a little bit here. I thought this was pretty good value. Senegal group winner, 4-1. Like you said, if Netherlands, can win those first 2 matches and sort of pick and choose how they want to finish in the group, depending on what it looks like, here or there, that might jump Senegal into the group winner. Then I got one other Senegal quarterfinals. So I basically got them on every level, Senegal to keep going. So if you can get them out of this group, you can just start winning money to the point where they would win. And the last one I took, just because I thought it was good value, and I mentioned it, that the host nation usually makes it out. Qatar is plus 470 to get out of the group. So, I have elimination Qatar round of 16. So I have them. I think that's pretty decent value at plus 470. You always just want to be leery of that host nation. You watched Korea and Japan make a run into the 16 and the semis. You watched, numerous host nations just somehow weasel their way out of there. Russia, great point in 2018. Hadn't really played any competitive soccer leading up to that World Cup for about 4 years. All of a sudden, they're in the quarterfinals. It's just something that sort of happened. So I thought 470 eliminated in round 16 was worth a shot there. But that's what I got. I'm just going to ride Senegal. I loved them in the African Nations Cup. I just love the way they play defense, and they have just enough on the offensive side of the ball to sort of pick that goal. Now, health of Mane, really, really depending. We didn't talk about Ecuador enough. I think they could also sneak through here if Mane's not healthy, because I just think their counter-pressing way can give teams problems here, and I think people underrate them because they aren't one of those big-time South American nations, but they're the ones that made it through.
Yeah.
So
I definitely like, if Senegal doesn't show up, I like Ecuador to get that spot to take their place for sure.
Yeah, not much on Qatar. The only thing I'd say in Qatar is we mentioned how these teams don't play a lot together. This team does, because all their players play in the same domestic league. Almost 70% of them all play on the same one team. The others all play on. There are about 3 really big teams in Qatar in the domestic leagues there, and all these guys play on those teams. So they are used to playing together. They have gone around and played in some tournaments, so maybe there's a little life there. I don't think they'll have enough scoring, and they've shown vulnerabilities defensively. All right, let's move on to Group B. Group Americas here.
USA.
Group Americas and Group Us, basically, before we were the Americas. So we got England, Iran, United States, and Wales in this group. Clearly, England here, probably the overall favorite. I will say I'm not in love with England in this tournament, but I think somehow I don't want to say luck, but the World Cup and the Euros, they've had a pretty easy path 2 times through, and it looks like they got at least a pretty easy path here to get out of this group, because I think there's a definite level drop. England, and then you go Wales, Iran, USA, all I wouldn't say there's that much separation between the three. I think USA probably has the best players of the group. Wales has the best player, though he's aging overall. And I think Iran just probably has the best sort of team unity, despite what's going on there right now. But they know how to play. They should have gotten out of the group in 2018. They missed a couple chances there versus Portugal, where they would have been out of the group. So I think everybody's underrating Iran a little bit here, and just staring at Wales, England. Iran is very similar to Senegal. They aren't a fun team to play. They know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to hunker down back there and make you break them down for 90 minutes. And if you make a bad pass, they will pounce on it and try to create an opportunity to get a goal and then just sit there and make you open up. So I think people are underestimating Iran a little bit here, but I am curious your thoughts. We'll go to the two, United States and Wales. The two that everybody thinks will probably be getting out of the group here?
Yeah, like you just said, that's what I look at in this group. I look at that game one, United States, Wales. I really think that could determine how this group goes right off the bat. I think England, far and away, I think they're going to coast through this group, much similar to Netherlands in the last group. But really good competition here. I like U.S. I think we've got some strong players defensively for sure. I'm interested to see how we're going to put some points on the board. But I think it's going to be interesting. I like USA, but like you said, we'll know really quick. I think that first game is going to be the indicator. You're giving Iran a little bit more credit than I think. I don't know if they're going to be quite there on that level with the United States and Wales.
Well, let's talk about USA. I certainly think talent-wise, they are probably easily second in this group. I'm not in love with the way they play. I think they don't necessarily always play to their strength, especially defensively. They like to play out from the back. They don't have a goalkeeper, one who, funny enough, USA doesn't have a goalkeeper, which has been the position we always had a dominant guy in, But we don't have a goalkeeper who regularly plays. They all are backups on, Premier League teams, one on a championship team, one is a MLS goalkeeper, and I think defensively they struggle playing out of the back. Though the coach, that's his formula, that's how he wants to play, and then we come to the other side, goals. It's that middle of the park. I think we can play with anybody. Midfield, our wing backs, our wingers can all fly around and play great soccer, but nobody's a finisher. And we chose not to really bring the two guys who have been scoring goals in international competition. Now, we brought guys he's comfortable with.
Yeah.
That
he definitely picked his style.
Yes, he picked his style. Will that work? And the other thing is, or does he sort of just play his sixth best? That would be the other thing. He's got probably 6 guys for really 4 spots, 5 if you slide them in up front. But you could theoretically maneuver things around and do a Man City type thing, false 9. Granted, we don't have that level of player, so that becomes a little nerve-wracking. Or you put in one of the strikers he chooses, who's also not a finisher, which is what gives me pause. Can they get goals? I'm fearful they dominate games, make one mistake in the back, give up a goal, and then are searching, create opportunities, no finishers for USA. And Wales is sort of like the exact opposite. I'd say nobody on their team is an elite guy, but they have about 24 guys who are all good at playing soccer. They all play hard, they work hard, and they find their opportunities. And Gareth Bale, while he's not Gareth Bale of like the 2016 Euros flying up and down the pitch and doing, crazy stuff, he still finds spots where he can dominate a game, and he's still usually always the best player on the pitch. So that will be really, really important, that first game. I think I ended up moving Wales through just because I thought they would be a little bit more ready for this. I feel like USA's looking at this as like a training competition for the USA World Cup.
Yeah.
In 4 years, which I don't like, but hey, whatever. So let's get into bets for Group A. Oh, I should talk about England. We didn't talk about England. They're moving through. I will say this. I think if England had gotten into one of these tougher groups, I think they might have a little bit of problem where I think their roster is stacked. I mean stacked. But Gareth Southgate has shown just sort of this ability to really, really be conservative. I don't know if he doesn't trust his back line, and that's why he plays the really good defensive midfielders and doesn't really go after games, or it's just his style play. That's his style play, and he wants to grind through. But, you know, the amount of offensive firepower on this England team and the amount of goals that it translates to just, it worries me going into knockout stages. Where we've seen it in the two finals where, you know, in the World Cup in 2018, they get up on Croatia, they pull back, sit in their shell, and then Croatia goes on, dominates the game, ends up winning the game. Basically, the same thing happened in the Italy Euros. They got up 1-0, went into their shell, and then Italy starts dominating the game. Italy comes out the eventual winner of that game. I'm worried if that trend continues here.
Well, and, you know, like you said, their play style could be their downfall here. You know, we said England should run away with this, and I think they will. But if they don't, if they get too conservative here, because the other three teams are going to be competing hard for that second spot. So if these other two teams start playing if England's not playing aggressive and it's close and these guys are like, hey, we can get out of here with a draw, England better be careful. They're going to get a couple draws right off the bat, and they're not even going to be in it.
Well, that's what has me a little scared about this opening Iran game. Like, it's your first game. You're naturally going to be conservative your first game out. Iran's going to relish that and just say, fine, we'll play 0-0. Yeah. We don't care.
Well, to get the point and go on.
We'll go, we're through with you, first game out. We got Wales and USA.
Yeah.
You know, and I think England will be a little bit more aggressive. I'm glad they put Trent Alexander-Arnold at least on there. I don't know if they'll play him, but I'm really interested to see if this team can navigate its way through. It's been two big competitions that they've managed to get to the semifinals and finals in, but England always seems to screw the pooch. We'll see if they can find a way here. Really stacked roster, though. You know, if you were grading rosters, probably top 3 roster easily, maybe top 2. Their roster might be better than Argentina's, you know, pound for pound. Only, I think, really Brazil maybe one that looks a little bit better. All right, let's go to Group C here.
We should do our bets in that group.
We should do our bets because I didn't have very many. Good call. All right, what do you got, Group B?
I only have one.
Yes, I only have one too. So.
And it's a dual forecast. So 2 teams to advance. They could finish in any order. I've got England and USA plus 100. I think USA is going to be able to do enough, and like I said, I think England's going to be there for sure. But it could be interesting order of finish in this group.
That could be a very sad Monday for you.
Yeah.
I just have one elimination. England round of 16. I think they can get through that, but maybe that first knockout stage game they come up against somebody a little difficult. Certainly if, you know, like we mentioned it, where the Netherlands ends up like finishing second and it's Netherlands, England in that first round of the knockout stages, that could be interesting. All right, so that's what I got. That's plus 210. You even see the value there. Isn't even that.
Yeah.
You know, I thought I was going to get a little bit more, but I didn't end up getting as much value as I thought. All right, let's now go to Group C, where we got Argentina, Australia, Denmark, and that's Group D. Group C, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Poland.
There we go.
So this one's easily a talent gap.
Yeah.
Drop. Probably Mexico, Poland, drop, and then Saudi Arabia. I will say Saudi Arabia, fun to watch. They'll play open and go after you. So, I mean, there's always goals in Saudi Arabia's games, and that's not always what you get from, you know, some smaller clubs. But let's touch on Argentina first. I don't think we really need to break down whether they'll win the group or, you know, get out of the group. I think that's probably going to happen. how far can this Argentina team go? This is easily the best roster I've ever seen them have with Messi. I do sort of wish it was
Prime
Messi from 2014. But it's still a pretty good Messi, and it's a pretty loaded roster. They have not lost in over a year.
They've got the longest international winning streak,
and
right
they're
now,
approaching
so.
the all-time. So that's on there. I think they're my favorite to win the World Cup, but not somebody I bet on because they are second favorite, and I think there's the value's better just going game to game there than just having it and you don't know what you're getting in the knockout stages. It's pretty obvious they're going to have to play Brazil probably before the finals.
Yeah.
So, what do you make of this Argentina team? Can they go all the way?
Yeah, definitely. I think they're most people's pick past Brazil. You've Brazil are the favorites, and then I think you've got Argentina right there, kind of in the same realm as France. But I think top to bottom, this Argentina team's really good, and I'm interested to see how they match up. I don't think we'll really see any challenge for them in this group play. Like you said, the talent gap is just massive here. To me, this group just points to the two teams, Mexico, Poland.
Yeah.
We've seen Mexico advance to the knockout stage 7 straight World Cups, but they haven't made it past that in 7 straight World Cups. So we'll see what happens. But I'm really big on this Poland team.
Yeah, I know you are. Finish out. The only thing I worry about with Argentina is as it gets later in the group stage, I feel like that pressure's just going to build and build and build, as in this is the last chance. There's probably not going to be Messi in 2028. That seems unlikely. So I think as they'll start to feel it, and if they can't handle that kind of pressure, great win. To win the South American Cup a couple years ago, beat Brazil in Brazil, big win. So they handled it there. But I worry, once it gets to the quarters and the semis, as games get late and games get tighter, and everything matters that much more. If some of these guys just start to press a little too much, knowing this is the last chance.
It's like you said, those expectations and the winning streak, that all is going to add up to more and more pressure on these guys, and pressure, leads to weird things happening.
Yes.
Dropping a game you're not supposed to, which I think it'll definitely knockout stages could get really interesting once we get there. But I don't think we're going to have any problem with them in group play.
I think we're fine. Knockout stages, that's where I think they drop. And maybe on the defensive side, they have a couple old guys. They have a couple young guys too, so they can switch it up.
Yeah, I've actually got them going out in the quarters in my bracket just because of the way the matchups are going to fall. Now, the way those matchups fall, the knockouts,
It's guessing now.
Yeah, it can be really different, but I have them running into a tough matchup
All right,
and not getting
so
past it.
let's get to Mexico and Poland. No, you're good. We're, Argentina's one to talk about.
I don't think we need to linger too long on Saudi Arabia,
No.
though.
We'll get Saudi Arabia. They're fun. I will tell you they're fun. Of games in the World Cup to watch that will have goals, Saudi Arabia is always one to tune in. They play open. They like showing off their skills, and they don't mind creating holes on the other side. They've had a couple games where they've had teams throw up 5 spots on them. They usually get 2 or 3, but they play open. So I'd be careful betting them to 0 for sure, because and certainly with Mexico and Poland, who have both have sort of defensive issues overall. So I don't think Saudi Arabia can play with these guys, but it might be a couple entertaining games there where we get some goals. All right, let's go Mexico-Poland here. Let's start out with Mexico. I will say, I have no read on this Mexico team.
Yeah.
It's they always sort of lacklustery play through CONCACAF, because I think eventually they know they can flip a switch and get in. That's not a worry. But they have not looked good. They haven't controlled games at all. There's been a lot of switching in and out, and I think probably 2 or 3 years ago, everybody was looking at this Mexico roster that could be at this World Cup and thinking this could be the team that could break through and get past the round of 16 knockout stages. I think a handful of their young guys have not developed into the stars that they thought they were. They had a elite striker in Raul Jimenez who, 2 years ago broke his cranium. His skull literally cracked. He hasn't looked the same, and he's been dealing with injuries. We don't even know if he'll be able to, suit up. They did put him on the roster. That hurts them up front. So this isn't a Mexico team I'm totally comfortable with. That being said, they are a common team that goes into group stages.
Yeah.
Everybody writes them off, and then all of a sudden the midfield starts playing with the ball. Nobody can get control of the game. They find a couple goals in each game, give up 1 or 2, and they make it through to the knockout stages. So what's your feeling here on Mexico, and then we'll go into Poland.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm sleeping on Mexico a little bit, but I haven't been enamored with them. I will look back and just the past couple of years, like you said, they haven't really been shining stars by any means. They've done enough to get here, which is kind of what they usually do. But I don't see potential here. Yeah. Like, they may be able to creep through, but beyond that, I don't see it. Which is kind of why I'm leaning more the other direction. But I just, I don't think they're going to even be able to get a draw against Argentina. It's going to come down to the matchup with Poland, I think, and we'll see. And then, like you said, Saudi may be fun and maybe can put some points on them. And I don't see any consistency from this Mexico team.
The traditional Mexico thing to do would be to beat Argentina and lose to Saudi Arabia, and then have to try to find some sort of points versus Poland. I think that's been my biggest thing about Mexico, watching them, qualify. 1 week the offense is flowing and the defense isn't playing well. The next week, the defense is playing well, the offense can't get going. It just never seems that they've found total sync with their team. So I do think Poland can maybe sneak in here. The only negative I see with Poland here is it's total reliance on Lewandowski to score.
Yeah.
And I think they have other guys who can score, but when you have somebody who's literally as great as he is, it sort of just becomes whole focus offensively. Wing, get him the ball, get him to score. And I think sometimes they get closed-minded in that of just getting Robert the ball. Now, there's nothing wrong with that because, we've gone over numerous of these teams who struggle to have a guy who can score, and you have probably one of the best in the world who can do that. Do they have enough around Lewandowski to score? I think defensively would be my biggest questions. Can they cover in the back, versus a Mexico team and even a Saudi Arabia team, like I said, who can get at them and score goals?
Yeah, this is one of the biggest reasons I like Poland is I've really been fascinated with Lewandowski this year. He's playing amazing for Barcelona, and it really comes down to if he's going to step up, I think. And, it may make it easier on defenses since he's the guy. You just focus on him, shut him down, and that may be able to stop Poland's offense. But I think they need to play really open, fast, loose, maybe like the Saudi team that you're talking about, and just be like, okay, you're going to score 2 or 3. We're going to score, 3 or 4 ourselves. We're going to be right there with you. It's going to be fun soccer, I think, for sure. Yes. But it could also cause them to crash and burn pretty quickly
I will say this group, all 4 teams play entertaining, fun styles of soccer.
With goal differential being so important, I think we're going to see a lot of goals in this group.
Definitely so. I will say Poland's midfield, too, is really, really good. Their midfield, their frontline guys, I think, can pretty much hang. It's just that defense, and, if it can, hold enough goals, and then they start just, if they get down, does it just become swing ball in, swing ball in, swing ball again to Lewandowski, and just hope he can create magic instead of playing their style of soccer and finding their way. All right, let's go to bets in Group C. I got a couple here, mostly with Argentina. What do you got?
I just got one. I got the even money plus 100 Poland to qualify here. I think it's going to be tight between them and Mexico, but I think Poland's just got a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, I got a couple on this one. I got Argentina as the runner-up, overall in the World Cup at plus 850. And then I thought this quarterfinals minus 175. I know it's a little juice there, but I think it's pretty good, value overall. And that might cover some of. I'd use a bet like this to sort of cover a lot of these long shot ones that might not hit. So that one covers, you're covered in long shots, and then maybe you hit one or two, and that's how you make your money. That's how I've always gone for it, So I thought one under minus 200 to get to, the quarters, I think is pretty good value.
For one of the heavy favorites.
Yeah. All right, now let's go on to Group D, and France, Australia, Denmark, Tunisia. Once again, this is another one of these groups where I think there's really just two teams battling to come out of this group, and it's what position they come in.
Yeah.
I really don't know. Australia can step up, and quite honestly, I barely know anything about Tunisia other than I watched them a little bit in the African Cup of Nations. They got bounced out in the round of 16. They were really a surprise to get here and qualify, because Africa's World Cup qualifying is interesting to say the least. But they came out of their crappy group and then won their, they just have playoff games, and whoever wins those goes. It's not a round robin sort of thing. They got their win, they're in. But honestly, I barely know anything about them, and I literally know none of their players. So I can't give a breakdown totally of Tunisia other than what little I've seen, but I don't think they are capable of playing with even any of these teams, even Australia. And Australia will play hard, but they don't have anywhere near the quality of France or Denmark. So anything on those two, and then we'll break down the big two.
No, I don't. I think this is definitely a two-team group. We know who's moving forward here. There's just too much talent and star power on these other teams for these guys to compete. Just nothing there. This should be a pretty straightforward group.
Yeah, definitely so. So let's kick things off with France here. Speaking of loaded rosters, this is a loaded roster. Yeah. I will say I'm interested. No N'Golo Kante, no Paul Pogba. That was a big thing for them winning in 2018.
Yeah, but Mbappe and Benzema are scoring as well as anybody in the country, in the world right now. So having two of the best goal scorers on the same team is always...
Well, that I will say. Benzema back into the good graces of France national team, so he gets there. There are a couple things I think can derail France. I mentioned it. I think they aren't as special in the midfield as they were in 2018. That doesn't mean they aren't loaded. It just means you have, instead of two of the top 20 midfielders in the world, it's probably two of the top 40 midfielders in the world, replacing them. And I think Conte, really big, covered their defense, cleaned up mistakes, up front, and let, Mbappe and Pogba and Griezmann, sort of do what they do and play and not have to worry about covering back. And the typical France thing in fighting. There are a lot of egos flowing around in this France locker room, and if they can hold it together. You saw in the Euros where it sort of broke down and everybody started snipping and sniping and fighting, and then I believe this Denmark team beat them and moved on. So those would be my concerns with France. Do you think France just overcomes all that and cruises through, or are you a little concerned here with this French team?
Like you said, I think if they can, defeat their own issues, they can move forward. You look at, it almost seems like they can turn it on and off.
Yes.
And they need to be ready to go from the get-go.
I think that's a great point, because it seems like they do that, and it seemed like they did that in the Denmark game. Got behind 2-0 and was like, oh shit, we gotta play, and then they started to play, but they seem to keep it in second gear, and then when trouble starts to mount, they have to throw it into fourth really quick.
Now, I was looking at this, like we said, I think France and Denmark are obviously going to move through. I think it's going to be really interesting, the position play here for who wants to win and who wants to get second. I think they're going to look at the other group and see how it goes, because I think they're going to get wins against the other two opponents in here. So it's really going to come down to their matchup and who wants to take the win and who doesn't. So it could get interesting here, but we'll see what France wants to do come knockout stage, but I see them getting out of the group.
Yeah, I think they clear the group. Let's talk about this Denmark team. Had a great showing in the Euros, even with Christian Eriksen having the heart attack on the field. Christian Eriksen's back. That makes it... If you look at this starting 11, I wouldn't say they're deep. But 11 for 11, I think they can match up with basically any of these top teams. And on the right day, like you saw in the Euros, they can nip a France and, make their way through. So I don't want to call them a sleeper because everybody's sort of marking Denmark as a sleeper, and I don't like marking sleepers with a team that's filled with a bunch of high-level, Premier League and La Liga and German players, who are all really good players. So it's not necessarily a sleeper. But I think this roster of Denmark, as long as it stays healthy, can navigate their way into like a semifinals again.
Yeah, they're definitely good enough. I look at it, I don't think they have any, S-tier superstar players, but they're full of A-tier guys that are all going to be really good top to bottom and consistent for you.
It's sort of like Wales. Except Wales is probably sort of B-tier guys, whereas Denmark's one level above that, where it's just sort of A-tier guys. There's no, star.
Yeah.
But it's like, he's in the starting 11 of a really good team. He's in the starting 11 of a real good team. And if they can find goals, that would be the only thing, I worry about a little bit is sometimes they get a little goal drought because they don't have an out-and-out, I'd say, scoring striker, but they tend to find goals with the way they play, certainly through the midfield. So I think this Denmark team can make a run, and I certainly think they could end up in the semifinals like they did in the Euros.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to what their matchup's going to be in the round of 16. I've got them at an unfortunate matchup, but if something falls their way and they get something more favorable, they can make a better run.
Yeah. All right. Let's break down our bets in this group. Like you said, I got a couple here. I got two Denmark bets. I got Denmark group winner at plus 185. Like you said, this is a two-person group, and you're basically giving me 2-1 in a two-person group. So I think that's pretty good value there. Yeah. And then elimination Denmark quarterfinals was plus 380. I thought that they could easily win a first round matchup in the knockout round, and then maybe go down in the quarterfinals. And then I had elimination France in the quarterfinals. I fiddled around with the matchups. It doesn't look like any of the matchups in the 16 probably would be a team that could knock them out, but certainly matchups in the quarterfinals, I think they could come across a team that could probably knock them out. So that was plus 300 for France elimination quarterfinals.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bigger on France than you. I've just got one bet on them. I've got them to reach the semis at plus 163. I think they've got the superstar power. I think they're going to be able to keep it together to at least get to the Final Four. They could. I've got them actually going on a pretty easy path based on my bracket. Well, easy for them.
Yes.
But we'll see how it drops. Like you said, that round of 16 could be any kind of matchups and could really throw it off. But I like France's superstars, and I think Mbappe is going to score a lot of goals and be right in there for the Golden Boot.
Yeah. All right. We're going to Group E here. This one's actually a little deeper. I think there are definitely two teams that are names, but the other two teams can play soccer. You got Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, and Japan in this group, and everybody's going to automatically go, Spain and Germany, but Japan has made it to the knockout stages, pretty consistently since that 2002 World Cup. They play an entertaining, fun style, so they're always fun to watch, and I think you have two teams in here in Germany and Spain who also play open styles. So, you get Japan playing open style football and goals start raining in. It's a little harder to handicap. And then you have Costa Rica, who, made a great run in 14, solid in 18, but not quite the run. And struggled in qualifying this year, got to the, play-in tournament outside, got through. Let's start with Costa Rica here. It's a lot of good football players, but it's a lot of old good football players. There's still a lot of reliance on guys who were, part of that 2014 magical run. And, well, that was
8 years ago.
8 years ago. That's a long run ago. So I just, of the teams in this group, I think anybody is capable on their day to beat anybody, but they would be the ones I'd mark as, just from what I saw. Now, they started to heat up there towards the end of CONCACAF tournament, and then, easily won their knockout stage round. So what do you make of Costa Rica here? Just a little too old, or do you think they can sort of defend their way through, which is how they go about it?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. This is one of the groups I struggled with because I was unfamiliar with a lot of the players and teams in this group. So I'm definitely one of those. I took Spain and Germany, went with the known commodities there. But yeah, you look at Costa Rica's past success, but it's definitely a young man's game for sure. And I don't know if they're going to be able to compete. Germany's got a really good mix. They've got the seasoned vets, and they've got the up and comers, and I think that's going to give them an advantage in this group. And I don't know a whole lot about this Japan team. I know you're big on them, but I just don't know if Costa Rica is going to be able to squeak by on this one.
Yeah. All right, we'll move to Japan, and I love this Japan team, mostly because I just love their style of play. They fly around, all over the place. Fast, open, exciting football. Now, that being said, sometimes it's a little too fast and a little too open, and you get they were up 3-1 in that Belgium game and to move on, and gave up 3 goals in about a 10-minute period and ended up not making it, to the quarterfinals of that stage. But I certainly think this Japan team can hang around here, and it has a lot of guys who now don't, just play in Japan. They play all over. A lot in the Bundesliga, a lot in La Liga, a handful in, England. They play all over now. So they're pretty experienced playing high level, domestic league football. So I think they can hang with these teams. The question mark would be defensively. If you're off, Germany can carve you up and put 4 or 5 goals on you, and Spain can carve you up and put 4 or 5 goals on you pretty quick here, and then I think that's what I'd be worried about. And then Costa Rica can just stink you out, where they're like, okay, you can diddle around with the ball up at midfield all you want, and we'll try to snake a pass and go 1-0. So that would be my concern for Japan, but I do think talent-wise, they can match up with Germany and Spain on their day, and if those two teams aren't ready to play, I think Japan can put a couple goals, by them.
Yeah.
You didn't know much about Japan, anything on them?
No, like I said, I couldn't find a whole lot on them other than, just this most recent World Cup run. So I mainly focused in, I kind of got, locked into Germany here.
Yeah.
They're one of my dark horses here, so not a whole lot on Japan. I say dark horse, but the value's there.
That's correct. I will go with that too. And that is why, I put them as one of my dark horses, because they aren't. Germany should never be a dark horse.
I think they're up there with the most World Cup wins.
Correct. And
So
not just wins, in World Cup finals. They've been to plenty of those too. This team is loaded. It got a little, hurt up front with Timo Werner not being able to make the trip. And I think that may be people's reluctance, is they don't have a true out-and-out striker, but they have a lot of dudes who can score goals, including probably the best young player there is, in Jeremy Musiala, who's just everybody's got to watch him play. Go watch Bayern Munich, watch him play. You'll watch him on the World Cup. That guy is going to be a star. And I think he could use this tournament to sort of boost his value, and everybody knows, sort of like Mbappe did, 4 years ago. This could be Jamal Musiala's tournament here. So that, and then of course, as Germany plays and as they play their play style, it's always a high line. They're going to probably give up goals. It's can they score enough and defend enough to stay in that pack? Can it be 1 or 2 goals instead of what happened to them in 2018, where it was more like 3 or 4 goals?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is this is probably one of the, if not the hardest group in the World Cup this year. So they have that challenge in front of them. You got the experience in Spain. You said Costa Rica's a challenge. Japan made a run last time. So I don't think there's any clear bottom feeder in this group or any clear front runner. So I do like Germany to advance, but I think it's going to be really tough.
Yeah, it's not one you want to sleep on on a day where I think in a couple of the last groups we had, you could, if you are an elite team, you could probably take a nap. Let's go to Spain here. I'm not in love with this Spain team. One is... they don't have someone who can consistently score goals, and they have a couple guys who out and outright get a little nervous in big moments like this. You've seen it in Morata. They didn't even bring Moreno. I will say, when they put Ansu Fati on the roster, that made me sort of, honestly, I have Spain being knocked out in the group play here. I know their midfield has a lot of young stars, but one, I'm a little worried they're going to play a couple of those old guys. You mentioned it. Spain has that mix of old and new, and I think sometimes some of these teams will get to them in like Portugal, and even Mexico has this, where that old guard who has really done well for you, coaches who have been there are a little scared to shift them out and put in the young guys. And then, all of a sudden you do play at Japan and you got those old guys, and all of a sudden all the Japan guys are blasting past them, and you're like, what's going on here? And it's like, well, they don't have the young legs. They can't go a full 90 minutes. That's what concerns me with Spain and just getting goals. I know they made that run in the Euros, but they also had trouble getting out of the group, and a couple things fell their way in the knockout stages, like things do. That's the way it is. If you can get out of the group, once you get to the knockout stages, one good game, you're through, and then you're on a roll, and everybody's like, wow, what a Euros. And, it was 1 goal separated in the knockout stages, and everybody's going, what the hell's wrong with Spain? So, it's that much of a difference. And I just worry that they're going to be a little static, not move in a lot of the young guys, and they aren't going to get the goals. A lot of possession. It's going to be the Spain that everybody hates watching as they pass the ball along top of the midfield for 200 hours, and we watch 1,000 passes going this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, and nothing gets thrown in the box to goals, and it's just... that's what ends up happening, and Spain ends up dropping a couple. So I'm not as in love with Spain here. I think they could possibly drop out of this group. What do you make of Spain?
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit, like I said earlier, I'm guilty of focusing in a little bit on Germany and Spain here. Didn't have as much research on this Spain team. I have got them advancing, but
they have plenty of talent. I don't want to say that they don't have talent, but I think, like I said, I think they have old guys who have been elite level guys. A couple still remnants from the back-to-back Euro champions, the World Cup champions. That are still hovering around there, and are world-class players. But they're world-class players in 2018 and not in 2022.
But yeah, I think it's going to be a fun group. A lot of hard-fought games for sure.
Yeah, I think this will be a fun one to watch. Football games. All these teams play with a pretty fun style, except for Costa Rica, and they play with a fun style where they basically hammer you for 90 minutes, and it's always fun to watch a couple of those European teams get upset as guys are being absolutely physical with them. So let's get into our bets here in Group E. What do you got in Group E?
Yeah, I've just got two, and like I said, I'm big on Germany. I thought plus money on Germany to win the group was good. I got plus 110 on that. I actually, Spain's the favorite here to win the group. I like Germany better, and then I like the 10-1 plus 1,000 Germany to win the cup. Yeah. I think that's great. They get to the semis. You could look at hedging and making some money there for sure.
Yeah, I got a couple here. Germany, I got to win the World Cup at 10-1. And then I mentioned I'm big on Japan. So I got them as group winners, 17-1, quarterfinals, 14-1, and to qualify, plus 320. And then this one I really liked, Spain, elimination group stage, plus 550. If I think Japan can compete here, and you throw in even Costa Rica, who might still have a little left in that tank, plus 550,
yeah.
I think everybody's sort of putting Germany through here. That leaves one spot for three teams, 550. I thought that was a really, really good value. But I sort of like a couple of those Japan ones, 14-1, 17-1, 320. If they can get through, you can start to pile up and win a handful of bets. And then once you get to the knockout stages, if you have these, then you can start to insure bets in the game and find yourself a way to win money that way as well. All right, let's go to Group F. I think I had a lot of difficulty with this one because,
it's another one I struggled with familiarity with these teams.
It's interesting because you look at it and you go Belgium, Croatia, cruise through. But, I'm a little worried. Belgium, their opportunity was 4 years ago. Eden Hazard has totally dropped off the map. The health of Lukaku, we don't know about. And, the defensive back line is old and slow. And, but if you have Kevin De Bruyne and Timo Courtois, you're probably going to be able to do good things. So I'm not giving up on Belgium. I love, that original Belgium team, the golden generation, as they called them. But they make me a little nervous. And then Croatia has the same sort of thing. Runners up from the 2018 World Cup. And granted, all those midfielders that they had are still there. And they're still playing really, really good football. But it's hard for me to wrap my head around that a bunch of 32, 33, Modric is 38-year-old guys are going to be able to handle, especially a World Cup like this where it's an express World Cup. It's usually stretched out a lot quicker than this. Games aren't coming quite as fast, and I wonder if that starts to break down the body, mixed with they've already played a 15, domestic league games.
Yeah.
So that makes me worried about Croatia. And then you got the two that you probably don't know as well, but Canada, I will say, they were the best team in CONCACAF by far. Everybody's USA, Mexico. Canada dominated, and they have two legit, really, really good guys in Jonathan David and Alphonso Davies, and they got a team. And a lot of these guys have played together. So I think Canada can make a little bit of a run here, and Morocco has talent. They have a little bit of the France issue where I'm not sure they're all friends. And they did put Hakim Ziyech, who, on the roster, who's one of their best players, but he also didn't, travel with them in the last Cup of Nations Cup to qualify in the Africa Cup because he was fighting with the coach, and some of the players didn't like him. And I think that's the problem with Morocco. It's hard to get a read on them. They do have talent, and certainly in this group where you're a little confused, I think Morocco could make a run too. So it was a little bit of a wild card group here because I can talk myself into basically any of these four doing anything. Like Croatia gets too old, and they just can't do it. There's no Mario Mandzukic up front where they can score goals like they had the year before. The defenders are a little old, can't keep up. Belgium just that generation has died, and they haven't replaced it, really. It's, those guys, and it's still those guys. And then Canada, young, up-and-coming team, but is it enough? They aren't World Cup experienced at all. So what is this? Are they happy to be there, or are they going to bully up and make one of those runs here for a team that people don't really know? And then they get out on the pitch and everybody goes, oh, these guys can actually play a little bit, which is, I think, sort of what happened in CONCACAF. Everybody sort of, snickers, oh, Canada, Then they get on the pitch and everybody's like, oh, these dudes can play soccer.
Well, and you've got to look for every World Cup you get one of these teams that you're not expecting to move through. I kind of went chalk. I'm a novice of this World Cup. It's my first one. And this is a group, another one I was a little more unfamiliar with. But they could be that team this year. And, something about that CONCACAF team, they play really good defense. Yes. And it's just, if they can get into these games, maybe get a couple, draw Croatia or draw Belgium, and then be right there in it, one win away from advancing, it could get interesting. I think this is going to be another really tight group. These really the second half of this, the last half of these groups would get really interesting. I still, like I said, novice glasses. I've got Belgium. I've got Croatia.
I think that's where the smart money is, and I wouldn't fault anybody because, Belgium's still loaded. And even if they don't get anything from Lukaku or Hazard, with that team that they throw out there, it's still an elite team. And like I said, their defenders are old, but you probably have the best goalkeeper in the world sitting back there in the net. And you have Kevin De Bruyne, who's, if not the best player in the world, one of the top 3 players in the world. And then Croatia, like I said, all those guys are aging, but they're all still playing really, really good football. Yeah. So, they were just in the finals. So it's not something that it's like I'd be stunned that they put together a run again and went through. It's just, you go, is this when some of these guys start to fall off a little bit? Depending on 38-year-old Luka Modric, who I love. But it's like, it's like us asking LeBron to come play in the Olympics in 4 years and be like, here, carry us to the gold medal. It's like, no, we'll probably have one of our young guys do that. Ja Morant can do that. And, LeBron James can score 15 points and be a piece. And it's still highly dependent on Croatia's midfield to sort of create all the opportunities. So I wonder if that's there, and if maybe one of these two teams, Canada and Morocco, both who have good rosters, can maybe sneak up there and grab something. I'd say Canada might be my sleeper team, but in this next group, I have my real sleeper team that I think can be really, really loaded here. So what are you going here with Group F?
Yeah, I just got one, and in my bracket, I've got Belgium winning this group, but I thought the value was pretty good for Croatia to win the group because I think they could be right in it, and I got plus 240 on that, where it was minus money on Belgium to win the group. So that's the only bet I've got in this one.
I got a handful here. I got runner-up Belgium. Just because I just trashed them doesn't mean I still don't love them. And, maybe we get a miracle Eden Hazard. All of a sudden looks like Eden Hazard, and Lukaku's in shape and his hammies are good. And
like you said, this World Cup, it's a weird schedule, weird time. Weird things could happen.
Yeah. And then, Belgium runner-up 14-1. But then, I also have Belgium elimination group stage at 5-1 and quarterfinals at plus 380.
So just sprinkling that money around.
So I'm just sprinkling Belgium. Might be anything. It's a wild card there. And then we got a bunch of Canada stuff. We got runner-up Canada, the miracle Canadian run to the World Cup finals.
That would be historic.
At 100-1. Canada semis 50-1, quarterfinals 18-1, and group winner 11-1. And to qualify out of the group plus 280. So basically, I'd put a handful of money here and then just use the to qualify to really sort of cover all those. And then if they qualify, then they're in the knockout stages.
Well,
and each win just starts
plus money there.
Piling on. And if I don't like it, then I can cover it in the game. So that's where I was going with that one. But the next group, I will say, is the group where I have a little bit of a sleeper
Interesting,
here.
because I thought this group was pretty straightforward.
Yeah. All right, so we got Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, and Cameroon. We'll do a breakdown here of Brazil because I don't think any of us think Brazil's not getting out of this group, and the roster is loaded. So what do you make of Brazil here? Finals and bust, or do you think they might could get bounced out a little early?
I think it could be interesting on when they match up with Argentina.
Yeah.
I think that's the big question. Group stage, no challenge for this roster. Brazil.
Or the backup roster.
I mean, yeah, it's just absolutely loaded.
Yes.
They're not going to struggle to score goals for sure. And they actually, I think they got a pretty favorable group.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's going to be interesting to where the knockout rounds fall. Because I think they're going to have to play Argentina before the semis, maybe even in the quarterfinals, which could get really interesting because those are the two heavy favorites.
Well, I think it could be a lot like in 2018 when France and Belgium played in that semifinals, and that was really the finals. And England and Croatia played in the other semi, and that was sort of the 2-3. If you watched it, you'd go the top two teams that year. Belgium, France.
I really am hoping we get that matchup at some point because, Argentina just took them down last year for that cup. And I think Brazil's got revenge on their mind. Plus, they want to get back there. I think it's been a little bit since they've won a World Cup, and this is probably one of their best opportunities in a while.
Yeah, Brazil, no problem here, and really no problem. I think I would only put maybe 2 or 3 teams even remotely capable of beating this team. Argentina would be one. I'd probably throw England in there, but I don't think mentality-wise they would. I think they would be too scared to put an offensive lineup out there, and then they'd just get picked apart defensively and wouldn't have the capabilities. I'd throw Germany in there, and that probably is the list. Yet France would be in there, and I don't think maybe you could talk me into Spain on a good day where they just sort of possess the ball, but I'd be very surprised if Spain. It's 3 or 4 teams that could even have a chance of beating this Brazil team. The only thing I think I could sort of say negative is up front, they probably are the deepest I maybe have ever seen a World Cup team. Maybe even deeper than those Ronaldinho teams who could score 6 goals in 15 seconds if they wanted to. The back line, it's a little old and a little slow, but they're all good players. So, I mean, if they... That would be something like France, where maybe Mbappe could get behind him and create a goal or two. But I don't know if you can keep them out of the net 2 or 3 times because, like I said, up front, it's literally they could take out the starters, put in 3 new guys, take those guys out, and put 3. They got 9 deep on literal guys who can put the ball in the net. Like, we go through here and everybody's like, well, they need a couple guys up front who can put the ball in the net. Brazil has basically everybody but the 3 defenders who can put the ball in the net here.
Well, it's like pretty much any other team other than, France and Argentina would kill for just one of these players on the front line.
That's literally the 7-8 from up front would start on basically any one of these teams here.
Yeah.
So let's move into a couple of the other ones. Serbia. That's the team, I think, that can make a run here. I love these guys up front. You got Mitrovic, who's having a great year at Fulham and is just a goal scorer. You got Dusan Vlahovic, who's also a goal scorer. This team can put goals on the board. They have a really solid midfield. Defensively, I get a little bit nervous because they tend to play a little bit of a defensive style. It's a little bit like watching Spurs, where they have all this talent up front, but then they play a defensive style, but they don't have great defenders. So they're going to leak goals, no matter what you do. And then they have to turn that switch on where then they open up and then all their goal scorers and their midfielders get forward and then they start to get goals. But I love this Serbian team. I think can be the one that maybe can navigate through this a little bit like Croatia did a couple years ago. They don't have the dominant midfield that Croatia had, but I think up front they can get goals. If they can keep a couple out of the net, I think they can make a run here, and I think this group suits them because I don't have a lot of trust in Switzerland and Cameroon, but I'm curious what your thoughts on Serbia are. Did you find much on them?
No, I struggled to get past, the top teams here. I kind of I'm probably guilty of looking past Serbia a little bit.
Well, that's good. It means I can bet on them.
I knew enough about Cameroon to know that they're there pretty much every time, but they never really go far beyond that. And I knew Brazil was great. So I got narrowed it down to Serbia, Switzerland. I knew a little bit more about Switzerland, so those are the two I've got.
We'll go to talk about Cameroon a little bit. This team really put on a show in the Africa Cup of Nations. People were a little bit down on them. They hadn't been playing well, but they sort of integrated a lot of these young guys in there, started playing really, really good football, then, made a nice run in the Africa Cup of Nations, then made it through qualifying. But you mentioned it. They're ones that are in there a lot out of Africa, but they've never sort of translated their success, and they've had much, much better teams than this one into the World Cup. They've always sort of struggled here in the group stage, certainly getting off to slow starts. And I just wonder if this young roster is going to be there, not quite ready to play. So I sort of mark them off, but it's one of those weird things where maybe they're just young enough to not know what they're getting into, whereas past teams that have been a little bit more loaded have sort of felt that pressure, or maybe this Cameroon team won't feel the pressure because I don't think a lot of people are expecting anything of them. And then you get to Switzerland. I look at them a little bit like Wales, maybe a little bit better roster. It's a lot of solid guys, but it doesn't have any of the star power. I don't even think it really has A level, talent. Maybe like B plus level talent to B talent. It's very similar to me to Wales. They're a little bit more disciplined. They can sort of play both styles where they can defend and open up a little bit, but it's just sort of it's a team that has good players, but not anything that I think Serbia would be scared of. So what did you sort of make of this group outside of Brazil? Did you go with Serbia? You move Switzerland along? Or?
I've got Switzerland moving on, but, to qualify, that's about it.
Yeah.
Don't have them going any further than that. Didn't really love any of these three teams outside of Brazil.
Yeah. That would be pretty much a smart move. I like the Serbian team. So, bets-wise, what did you got on this one?
I've just got Brazil in here to win the cup. I mean, I know it's the obvious low-value pick, but it's pretty solid, and you're still getting 4-1 value for obviously the best roster out there.
Well, I went with Serbia, and I wrote them down the line. World Cup, 90-1. Runner-up, 44-1. Semis, 14. Quarterfinal, 380. And to qualify 120. The qualify 120 is what I really, really like. This, like the Argentina one, would be one of the ones I put good money on to try to cover all these big bets and see if I can win a little bit. I really like that Serbia team. Not quite experienced in this type of tournament, but they have players who've played really, really good, domestic league football. All right, so we're to Group H here.
Final group.
The final group.
Another one that could get interesting,
This one I think could get interesting. Now, it got a little less interesting because we don't know what Son's injury, and that's literally taking one of the best players in the world out of someone's team who's built their whole offense
around him.
Literally around him. So we got Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and South Korea. I find this interesting here in this group because you got Portugal and Uruguay sort of in the same sort of place in their run here. I got a handful of guys who are mainstays, who are probably a little long in the tooth on both sides. and they also have a handful of youngsters who are starting to move in, and I think both teams are sort of fighting. Do we play the mainstays who have ridden us? Uruguay made a good run 4 years ago and are consistently good in this World Cup tournament. Portugal run the Euros, in 2016, maybe 16, I believe. But, they have a handful of guys long in the tooth, but they got a lot of young guys sitting there. And they haven't really evolved their style. They still sit back, play really defensive football, but a lot of the young guys that they have that they struggle to integrate are all sort of offensive front foot players, and I see them clashing, which is why I think they struggled to get into the World Cup. They had to win, the knockout extra stage game to get in here, and, sadly, it was forced North Macedonia because Italy isn't any good anymore. But Portugal, I think if they open up their play style, I'd trust them a lot more. But right now, I don't trust them. I see this team wanting to sit back, play defense with a lot of old guys. I mean, they still got Pepe on the roster, who's been on this roster since like 2010, while still a fine defender and will annoy the crap out of anybody and probably draw 2 yellow cards, in every match by annoying somebody. I just don't know if they're going to be able to integrate the young guys in Fernandez, into João Felix, into a couple of those other ones, and not just do what Portugal has done, which is defend and throw balls into the box to Cristiano Ronaldo, who's also 38 years old and not Cristiano Ronaldo anymore.
He's not playing well at all. I think this is one group that I look at, and 1, 2, and 3, the talent differential and projections for either of these teams is the gap is the smallest between 1 and 3 here than any other group. Really had a tough time. I think I had Portugal advancing and getting a pretty favorable draw in the first knockout round. So I've got them going a little deep. I may live to regret that, but I still like the South Korea team.
With the way this group has broken out, and with I think if Son's not healthy, Portugal probably gets out of this group pretty easy, and then you're in the knockout stages.
And I'm interested to see how much this injury actually really affects Son, because it's not it's just, I mean, I say just his face, but that that doesn't necessarily affect your running or anything
and he's not really a head guy. He's feet and precision. Now, granted, walking around with a broken face.
Now, concussion recovery and all that. We'll see how that's going and envision. But I think he may be a lot better than what people think. And I think the South Korea team doesn't have as much to worry about that injury as say maybe the Mane injury for Senegal.
Yes.
And so I could see really any combination of those 3 teams advancing. Yeah. I'm not really giving a whole lot of credit to Ghana. Maybe I'm overlooking them. You tell me.
No. This Ghana team was another one that sort of slipped through in the African, Cup of Nations. I think everybody basically assumed Nigeria, Egypt would be the ones that get through. Ghana and Tunisia got through. Now, this Ghana team started playing really, really well as well. And they probably don't have the talent to really make it through. But like I said, if Portugal plays their defensive style, Ghana will be more than happy with that and muck it up, maybe get a point there. We have to see what South Korea is. We don't know what they are right now without Son, or if he's even going to play. And so they might can steal points there. And then I mentioned it with Uruguay, another team that, Cavani, Suarez, a couple of their other guys who have carried this Uruguayan team for a couple World Cups now, but they have, sort of younger players, who are looking to get into the squad. And what is that mix? What does the coach do? Do you say, here, Luis Suarez, I know you've been a talisman for us and gotten us through numerous World Cups, sit on the bench so the young guy, can play here. And then that's when sniping starts. Yeah. And that's when teams start to break down, so what is that mix? Now, I think Uruguay's handled sort of team stuff a little better than Portugal, but that would concern me with Uruguay too. So as much as I think Ghana doesn't have the talent, it certainly with this group, I want to see how these things break down. I want to see how Portugal comes out and plays. I want to see what Uruguay's starting 11 is, and do they sort of utilize Cavani and Suarez, put them on in the last 20 minutes of the game to try to make a difference, or do they try to grind out 80 minutes with those guys and then put the young guys in there? I just curious. And then South Korea, what are they going to do with Sun? It was a really, really difficult group. I think I ended up crossing off South Korea because I just can't tell with Sun. And, Senegal offensively is not as powerful, but defensively they're much more. They could deal with the Mane injury. They might not score a goal, but they also might not allow one. Whereas South Korea is going to give up goals, and they need people to score goals. They have a couple other guys who could score goals, but Son creates pretty much everything offensively for that team, and without him in there, I don't know where they're at. So I think Uruguay will be able to deal with it. I think they'll go through. I really wanted to move Portugal out of this group and put South Korea up there. I couldn't quite talk myself into Ghana, but without Son, I just went with chalk and went with Portugal. So that's what I thought. Anything else on Group H here?
No, I've just got my bets here.
All right, I got my bets. I talked about it. I'm going to ride Uruguay here. Semis plus 600, quarters plus 190, group winner plus 200. I think that's a really good bet. I would not trust this Portugal team. I know people see it, and you look at the roster, and there are a lot of names, but they had a lot of problems in qualifying. They had a lot of problems in the Euros. I think that's going to just sort of bleed over here. If they had gotten just in the group right before, in a Belgium, Canada, take like Morocco or Croatia out, throw them. I wouldn't put them getting out of that group. They just sort of drew nice in this group and then got even nicer when Son got hurt. So I'm going big on Uruguay here. Semis, quarters, group winner, and elimination in the quarterfinals plus 430 for Uruguay for me.
Yeah, I'm just taking a value pick here just because of the wild card factor. South Korea, 1,100 to win the group. We say it could probably be a toss-up between those three teams. You like Uruguay a little bit better, but I think if Sun is going and South Korea is playing their best, they can compete.
Well, I totally agree
I think
with
the
that.
value for that on a group that could go any direction, 11-1's pretty good.
Also, Uruguay tends to get off in slow starts in World Cups. They got off in a slow start in South America in qualifying. They left it to the last couple of months. That's basically why Ecuador could cruise, because Brazil and Argentina clinched real quick, and then Ecuador clinched pretty quick after that because none of the other teams were playing well, and then Uruguay started to get going there late and got, they ended up jumping to third, but that's because Ecuador didn't have to play any games those last couple qualifying rounds. So I certainly could see where South Korea is. It's just, how healthy is Son. All right, I got a couple, player bets that I went, and I just went easy matchup bets. I did Germany, Brazil, Germany on the World Cup, 80-1, 50-1, and I did Germany, Argentina, Germany, 80-1, 65-1 for World Cup final matchups. Did you got any of those?
Yeah, I've got some finalist matchups. I took a shot at four of them. I've got Brazil, Germany at 28-1, Argentina, Germany 33-1.
We're all going to win a lot of money then.
Argentina and France, 18-1, one of the top ones, and then Brazil, France. Yes. I think that's the favorite matchup for the finals there. Definitely a lot of superstars on those two teams. I've got a couple of parlays, one to qualify parlay. Some of my teams that are kind of right there on the edge got some value in there. I've got Denmark, Poland, USA, and Senegal all to qualify, getting a little over 8-1 on that, plus 8-10.
That's not bad. I don't mind that.
And then
it could be over by Monday.
And then I've got a good to win group parlay. This one could get a little interesting as we'll see how the group play goes. But I've got Netherlands, Brazil, Argentina, England to win their groups.
I don't think any man is going to cheer harder against Wales than you on Monday. All right, I got a couple player ones. Golden Boot, Lewandowski was 36-1. Now, these, I didn't go some of the top guys because I just...
That's interesting because I've got Lewandowski on the Golden Boot as well, but I got 50-1 plus 5,000.
Yeah, you got better ones than I did. But that's why These are a little harder because the top guys, it's probably going to be how long your team can go through.
Yeah.
And I didn't think there was value in like Mbappe or Benzema or, Neymar.
The good thing is I think Poland's draw, he could potentially
Yes.
get 6 or 7 goals in
Well,
group,
he's going to
group
take
play.
Yeah, he's going to take all the penalties. If they can get out of group play, he could probably get to the. You probably want to be around the 68 goal mark.
Yeah.
In the World Cup, that usually gets you in and around there. So if he could get, let's say 4 in group play, they get out of the group, maybe get 2. He's in the mix. I put Ansu Fati 42-1 here. I think if Spain starts struggling to score, he's going to be the wild card where they insert him into that front line, and he's the one who can create and make things happen. Whereas, guys like Morata and stuff and Fernan Torres just don't get the goals. So if he starts getting playing time for Spain, it could be a wild card, and then they can make it through and he could get enough goals. I mentioned Jamal Musiala for Germany at 65-1. I really, really like that one. That guy's just awesome. Darwin Nunez, he's one of the strikers for Uruguay that probably should be playing over, Cavani and Suarez right now. I don't know if he's going to get in or they're going to sort of rotate the 3. But right now, I think he's probably the best one. And if he gets full playing time, I certainly think he could get in and around that 6-goal mark. So that's 80-1. And long shot, Kamada. Didichi Kamada for Japan. He's been playing amazing for Frankfurt. Anybody who's watched Frankfurt play the last couple of months has known I've been betting on him a lot and winning pretty good money, but he has been playing amazing. If he gets in that squad, like I said, that Japan team plays open, and they'll score goals. He probably can get some goals, and if they can make a run into at least those quarterfinals, he might be in and around the 5 or 6 goals to throw him in there. And then Golden Ball, I got 2 guys. I got Jamal Musiala 65-1. I do. In 2018, I hit this. I got Luka Modric. I won a nice chunk of change for Luka Modric winning Golden Ball. But Musiala, if Germany, makes a run, it's going to be because he steps up and starts getting goals. And at 65-1, pretty good value. And then a little bit drop of Vinicius Jr. at 16-1. I know Neymar is who everybody loves, but honestly, I think Vinicius is probably the best player on this team.
Yeah.
I don't know if they give him the golden ball, but, I think if people watch, they'll see Vinicius, and 16-1 I think is pretty good value for anybody on the top line of Brazil. Any player ones you like?
I've got 4 that I've sprinkled a little bit on Golden Boot. One, I'm going to go with Neymar, the Golden Boot. I think he's going to be taking the penalty kicks there. Plus, Brazil's going to make a deep run. I've got him going all the way, so the opportunity to rack up goals is going to be there. I like Lewandowski at 50-1. I think, like I said, I think he's going to get a lot of goals in group play. If they progress any in the knockout round, he's going to be one of the leading goal scorers.
I should say search around because, like I said, mine's 36. His is 50. I didn't look around. I just went straight off of what FanDuel, but that's 14 extra.
And then moving on, Netherlands is one of my favorite teams in this tournament. I've got Memphis Depay. I think, if they're going to be scoring goals, he's their main guy to go to there. And then, I've got Germany making a deep run. So Gnabry, I've got him at 40-1.
All right. So, any other player ones?
No, that's all I've got for a player.
Any other post ones? All right. Let's get into our brackets. All right. It's bracket time. So, let's go with Group A. Like I said, I'm still going to trust Senegal. I actually have Senegal winning this group and finishing first out of it. And then I have Netherlands finishing second out of this one. So I got Senegal and Netherlands in this one. What do you have out of
I've got
A?
the same 2 teams, but I've got it swapped. I think Netherlands are going to win this one outright pretty handily, but I've got Senegal barely sneaking into this second spot.
All right, let's go to Group B. England, Iran, United States, and Wales. I have England winning the group, and then don't hate my American pride, but I'm going to ride with Wales finishing second out of this group, the land of the dragons.
Yeah, I think England's another clear number 1 here, but I'm going with my USA national team to get to the knockout stage.
Yeah. All right. Next up is Group C. I win Argentina. I'm assuming you went Argentina first
Yeah.
as well. I went Mexico. I assume you went
Oh,
Poland.
you know I've got Poland. They're one
Yeah.
of my favorite sleepers here. I hope we get a big run and get that Lewandowski golden boot. One of my favorite players.
Yeah, so Argentina, Mexico for me, Argentina, Poland for him. This one I'm interested in. I'm curious how you have them. I have Denmark to win this group. I have France second. You flip them or you go chalk?
I've got them flipped. I'm not seeing as much of France struggles as you are. I think France is going to come out as the number one here. France, then Denmark.
I'll be sure to forward you the articles where the parents are fighting in the stands about their sons' playing time and them not passing to each other. All right, let's go to Group E. I'm going to go Germany, one in this group, and then I'm going to bring Japan in here. I'm going to drop off Spain. I don't trust this Spain team. I think it could be one of those years where they don't qualify out of this group. So I'm going to ride Japan on this one.
Yeah, this is one where we could separate from each other because I've got Spain as the number one coming out of this group, and then Germany at number two. Although I do like Germany better, I think group play is going to be a little weird. I think they're going to be play better in the knockout stage.
All right, Group F. I got big upsets in this one, but you could see how I have it crossed out because I initially wrote Belgium in there, and then I sort of trusted my gut and my eyes from what I've seen from Belgium. I ended up having them not make it out of the group. I got Croatia to finish first in this group. I got Canada to finish second out of the group.
Yeah, I've got Belgium winning this group. I think, age isn't going to quite catch up to them. I think it'll be in the knockout stages that gets to them.
Well, we'll see when you watch their defenders who run like you, and you'll be asking, why are those guys on the back line?
It's going to be a fun World Cup for sure. I've got Croatia second in this group.
All right, next up, I don't think one is that much of an argument, but I got Brazil first, and then I got my boys from Serbia coming in second in this one.
I'm going Brazil and Switzerland.
Yeah. All right, and then Group H, Uruguay, and I caved. I should put basically anybody, but I got Portugal in second in this one just because Son got hurt, and I don't trust the Ghanan roster.
Well, don't feel so bad because I have Portugal at one in this group, and I've got South Korea going through at number two. I flipped that last minute. I had Uruguay going through, but I think South Korea may be a surprise team.
You probably, betting-wise, should just put money on both South Korea and Ghana to qualify, because I feel like one of the old guards here, Portugal or Uruguay, might not make it out of this group, and I think one certainly will struggle, and you might be able to sort of placate on the last day and give yourself a win no matter what happens. All right, so let's get to the round of 16. Senegal-Wales would be my matchup. I have Senegal beating Wales in that one. What do you have in your first round of 16?
I've got Netherlands, USA, and as much as I've got my home team fan of USA, I've got Netherlands advancing in that one.
All right, I have Argentina and France in that first round of 16. That's going to be a bloodbath. But that's what I was talking about with France with my bets. They might not be able to see it. Now, if they finish first in Group D, they'd be okay. But, and if it's Argentina, Denmark, I'd certainly move Argentina. But I'm moving Argentina around anyway. I think they're a better team than France. So Argentina for me. What do you got in the next one?
I've got Argentina and Denmark matching up in this one, and I think I've got Argentina advancing pretty easily in that one.
All right, Germany, Canada for me in the next round of 16 knockout group. I have Germany going through. Good tournament for Canada just to get into the knockout stages and sort of aiming for, the USA, Mexico, Canada World Cup in 4 years. What do you got in the next
I've got
round?
Spain and Croatia, and, you're not big on them, but I've got Spain advancing in this matchup.
Oh, my, Spain.
Going into the round of 8.
Knocking out the runners-up. Brazil, Portugal in the last one for me. If we could get that, I probably will be betting minus 3.5 on Brazil in that one. But I have Brazil going through in that one.
I've got Brazil and South Korea in that bottom match, and Brazal advancing easily.
All right, let's go to the quarterfinals on this side of the bracket. I have Senegal, Argentina. I move Argentina along. I think that might be a little tougher. If Mane's healthy, than they'd want, though. I think Senegal bully them around and be really physical, but Argentina finds a way through. Awesome matchup in the quarterfinals here in Germany and Brazil. That could be a really entertaining, high-scoring matchup, but I have Brazil going through on that one, so... Brazil beats Germany in the quarters.
My awesome matchup is on the top half of this bracket. I've got Netherlands, Argentina. I think this is going to be a great one, but I also think this is where the pressure is going to get to Argentina. I've got Netherlands advancing to the semifinals. And then at the bottom of that bracket, I've got Spain, Brazil. Spain, if they make it that far,
your love of Spain runs
they're not
out
going
there.
any further than that. They're not better than Brazil at all. Brazil advancing for a really good semifinal matchup against the Netherlands.
I got a semifinal matchup of Argentina and Brazil. Sort of the
It's almost destined that matchup's going to happen.
I think it's coming for sure. Argentina, Brazil. I have Argentina moving on to the finals. So
another win over Brazil, huh?
Yes.
I've got Netherlands and Brazil in this matchup, and I don't think Netherlands can quite get there. It's going to be another third-place game for the Netherlands. That's about as far as they've ever gotten in the World Cup. I've got Brazil moving on to the final.
All right. On the other side, I got England, Netherlands in that first round of 16 matchup. I have Netherlands moving on in that one. What do you have?
I've got England and Senegal. I had flip-flopped Netherlands and Senegal, and I've got England beating Senegal.
Oh, that'll be an entertaining game. That's 0-0 written all over it. Denmark, Mexico for me in the next one, and I have Denmark moving on in that one.
I've got France, Poland, and France advances pretty
this
easily.
This is why you like France, because basically they
get a pretty good draw. They get Poland and England here. So
Croatia and Japan for me in this next matchup. I have Japan moving on into the quarters.
I've got Belgium and Germany, a really good
nice
neighborly matchup there. I think it should be exciting, but I've got Germany moving on.
Uruguay and Serbia in the last one, and my Serbs go out here. I think the sort of canny cunning of Uruguay moves through, and we got Uruguay into the quarterfinals. Netherlands, Denmark at the top of the quarterfinals. I move Netherlands along over Denmark there, and then Japan, Uruguay. I move Uruguay along to beat Japan there. What do you got then next?
Well, I'm going to get my last round of 16 in since you skipped over me there.
I forgot.
I've got Portugal. Advancing to the round of 8 because guess what? They match up against Switzerland in my bracket. I think they do it.
That'll be an entertainer.
So I think they've got enough to get past Switzerland, so I've got them advancing. And then at the top half of that bracket, you've got England, France. I think France, talent-wise, should be able to get enough goals to get past England. And then I've got Germany beating Portugal. Favorable road for Germany, favorable road for France.
Your matchups are what make bad TV, and then everybody hates soccer. All right, in the semifinals on this side, I got Netherlands, Uruguay. I have Netherlands going through over Uruguay, so I have a final of Argentina and Netherlands.
Yeah, I wanted to put the Netherlands in the final, but the way my bracket fell, I had them against Brazil. I couldn't do it. On this side, I've got Germany. This is where France's run ends. I've got Germany going to the finals and France matching up with the Netherlands in the third place game.
I got Argentina to beat the Netherlands, and then I got Brazil to beat Uruguay, but I think if Brazil gets in that third place game, I'd look for a shutdown. And
they don't care at that point.
I don't think third or fourth is what they're aiming for.
I've got Brazil winning the whole thing over Germany. I think this is the year that they finally get back into that winner, hold up the cup. Just one of the best teams I've seen.
Yeah. All right, that's our World Cup preview. We'll be back throughout the World Cup with some bets. We might bring Dynamite David in on a couple of those. We probably will bring him back once we get to the knockout stages, where we can
reset the bracket.
We can reset our bracket and know who's going to play each other in the knockout and see how we do there. Maybe update a couple futures from the knockout stages. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to try to get a college football show in sometime this week. I am not sure much of the lines have been looked at so far. As we've been doing terrible the last 3 weeks, you've brought me down.
I'd probably be doing better if I didn't do a big show. I'd make more money.
You've brought me down in your pit of doom. Somehow I won every bet but the 3 big ones I made last week. But nonetheless, we'll find no time to get the college football one out either Thursday, Friday, Maybe an emergency live Saturday. Who knows? But it'll be coming. Achilles Rain will be in here, and we'll do our NFL one on Sunday right before the games kick off. Be sure to like, subscribe. Don't miss any of our content. That's our show, and we're out.
As good as it gets on the continental road.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. How good is he?
Oh,